Hello and welcome to the next reading from the Mammoth Book of Haunted House Stories. The next story is a bit short, the fourth one, A Haunted House by Virginia Woolf. So I'm going to read to you, I was going to read to you two, Ghost Hunt by H. Russell Wakefield as well, but then I realised that that one is only, 4 or 5 pages long. So I thought I'd read to you the fifth one in the book. Sorry, the sixth one in the book, Dark Winner by William F. Nolan, which is just not that much longer than the second story today. So I'll read to you the 3 short stories. Instead of a very, very short fourth video, we'll have quite a long fourth video and have 3 short stories. So the first one is A Haunted House by Virginia Woolf. And the prospectus, the address is at Asham House near Lewes, East Sussex, England. The property is a 19th century 2-storey country home with arched roofs and imposing chimneys, 4 bedrooms, dining room and lounge with attractive floral gardens and 2 outbuildings. And we're talking about the summer of 1921, and Virginia Woolf, 1882 to 1941, was born in London and began writing in her teens with the story A Terrible Tragedy in a Duck Pond, which revealed her adolescent perception of death and anticipated her own eventual suicide by drowning in the River Ouse. Brought up in a highly intellectual circle, the Bloomsbury Group, she developed an impressionistic style of writing in her novels To the Lighthouse, 1927, The Years, 1937, and Between the Acts, 1941, as well as in a handful of outer stories, including The Lady in the Looking Glass, Lappin' and Lappin' Over, and of course this story, A Haunted House, which is based on the house where she lived in Sussex. So, whenever you woke there, there was a door shutting. From room to room they went, hand in hand, lifting here, opening there, making sure. A ghostly couple. Here we left it, she said, and he added, Oh, but here too. It's upstairs, she murmured. And in the garden, he whispered. Quietly, they said, or we shall wake them. But it wasn't that you woke us. Oh, no. They're looking for it. They're drawing the curtain, one might say, and so read on a page or 2. Now they've found it. One would be certain, stopping the pencil on the margin. And then, tired of reading, one might rise and see for oneself the house all empty, the doors standing open, only the wood pigeons bubbling with content, and the hum of the threshing machine sounding from the farm. What did I come in here for? What did I want to find? My hands are empty. Perhaps it's upstairs then. The apples were in the loft, and so down again. The garden still as ever, only the book had slipped into the grass. But they had found it in the drawing room. Not that one could ever see them. The window panes reflected apples, reflected roses. All the leaves were green in the glass. If they moved in the drawing room, the apple only turned its yellow side. Yet the moment after, if the door was opened, spread about the floor, hung upon the walls, pendant from the ceiling, what? My hands are empty. The shadow of a thrush crossed the carpet. From the deepest wells of silence, the wood pigeon drew its bubble of sound. Safe, safe, safe. The pulse of the house beat softly. The treasure buried. The room? The pulse stopped short. Oh, was that the buried treasure? A moment later the light had faded. Out in the garden then? But the trees spun darkness for a wandering beam of sun. So fine, so rare, coolly sunk beneath the surface, the beam I sought always burnt behind the glass. Death was the glass. Death was between us. Coming to the woman first, hundreds of years ago, leaving the house, sealing all the windows, the rooms were darkened. He left it, left her, went north, went east, saw the stars turned in the southern sky, sought the house, found it dropped beneath the downs. Safe, safe, safe. The pulse of the house beat gladly. The treasure yours. The wind roars up the avenue. Trees stoop and bend this way and that. Moonbeams splash and spill wildly in the rain, but the beam of the lamp falls straight from the window. The candle burns stiff and still, wandering through the house, opening the windows, whispering not to wake us. The ghostly couple seek their joy. Here we slept, she says, and he added, kisses without number. Waking in the morning, silver between the trees. Upstairs, in the garden. When summer came, in winter snow time. The doors go shutting far in the distance, gently knocking like the pulse of a heart. Nearer they come, cease at the doorway. The wind falls, the rain slides silver down the glass. Our eyes darken, we hear no steps beside us. We see no lady spread her ghostly cloak. His hands shield the lantern. Look, he breathes, sound asleep, love upon their lips. Stooping, holding their silver lamp above us, long they look and deeply, long they pause. The wind drives straightly, the flame stoops slightly. Wild beams of moonlight cross both floor and wall, and, meeting, stain the faces bent, the faces pondering, the faces that search the sleepers and seek their hidden joy. Safe, safe, safe. The heart of the house beats proudly. Long years, he sighs. Again you found me. Here, she murmurs, sleeping in the garden, reading, laughing, rolling apples in the loft. Here we left our treasure. Stooping, their light lifts the lids upon my eyes. Safe, safe, safe. The pulse of the house beats wildly. Waking, I cry, oh, is this your buried treasure? The light in the heart. As I said, a short reading. So the second story, the fifth in the book, is Ghost Hunt by H. Russell Wakefield. Now the prospectus, the address is the Grange near Richmond Bridge in London, England. The property is a Georgian-style house in its own grounds with lawns and borders running to the river. A charming three-storey building with 4 bedrooms, lounge, dining room and fine reception room. We're talking about March 1938. And Herbert Russell Wakefield, 1888 to 1964, was born in Elham, Kent, took a degree in history and worked for a London publisher when he started writing the ghost stories which today rank him alongside M.R. James. I'd never heard of him. Among his notable collections are They Return at Evening, 1928, A Ghostly Company, 1935, and The Clock Strikes 12, 1939. In 1917 he stayed in a period house near Richmond Bridge where a number of suicides had occurred with people throwing themselves into the Thames. He was inspired to write 2 stories about the place, the much anthologised The Red Hut Lodge 1928 and the equally unnerving Ghost Hunt, which is the story for today. Well, listeners, this is Tony Weldon speaking. Here we are on the 3rd of our series of ghost hunts. Let's hope it will be more successful than the other 2. All our preparations have been made, and now it is up to the spooks. My colleague tonight is Professor Mignon of Paris. He is the most celebrated investigator of psychic phenomena in the world, and I am very proud to be his collaborator. We are in a medium-sized 3-storey Georgian house not far from London. We have chosen it for this reason. It has a truly terrible history. Since it was built, there are records of no less than 30 suicides in or from it, and there may well have been more. There have been 8 since 1893. Its builder and first occupant was a prosperous city merchant and a very bad hat, it appears. Glutton, wine-bibber, and other undesirable things, including a very bad husband. His wife stood his cruelties and infidelities as long as she could, and then hanged herself in the powder closet belonging to the biggest bedroom on the 2nd floor, so initiating a horrible sequence. I use the expression suicides in and from it, because while some have shot themselves and some hanged themselves, no less than 9 have done a very strange thing. They have risen from their beds during the night and flung themselves to death in the river which runs past the bottom of the garden some 100 yards away. The last one was actually seen to do so at dawn on an autumn morning. He was seen running headlong and heard to be shouting as though 2 companions running by his side. The owner tells me people simply will not live in the house, and the agents will no longer keep it on their books. He will not live in it himself, for very good reasons, he declares. He will not tell us what those reasons are. He wishes us to have an absolutely open mind on the subject, as it were, and he declares that if the professor's verdict is unfavourable, he will pull down the house and rebuild it. One can understand that, for it seems to merit the label Death Trap. Well, that is sufficient introduction. I think I have convinced you it certainly merits investigation, but we cannot guarantee to deliver the goods or the ghosts, which have an awkward habit of taking a night off on these occasions. And now to business. Imagine me seated at a fine satinwood table, not quite in the middle of a big reception room on the ground floor. The rest of the furniture is shrouded in white protective covers. The walls are light oak panels. The electric light in the house has been switched off, so all the illumination I have is a not very powerful electric lamp. I shall remain here with a mic while the professor roams the house in search of what he may find. He will not have a mic, as it distracts him, and he has a habit, so he says, of talking to himself while he conducts these investigations. He will return to me as soon as he has anything to report. Is that all clear? Well, then, here is the professor to say a few words to you before he sets forth on his tour of discovery. I may say he speaks English far better than I do. Professor Mignon. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Professor Mignon. This house is without doubt, how shall I say, impregnated with evil. It affects one profoundly. It is bad, bad, bad. It is soaked in evil and reeking from its wicked past. It must be pulled down, I assure you. I do not think it affects my friend Mr. Weldon in the same way, but he is not psychic, not mediumistic as I am. Now shall we see ghosts, spirits? Ah, that I cannot say, but they are here, and they are evil. That is sure. I can feel their presence. There is, maybe, danger. I shall soon know, and now I shall start off with just one electric torch to show me the way. Presently I will come back and tell you what I have seen, or if not seen, felt and perhaps suffered. But remember, though we can summon spirits from the vastly deep, will they come when we call for them? We shall see. Well, listeners, I'm sure if anyone can, it's the professor. You must have found those few words far more impressive than anything I said. That was an expert speaking on what he knows. Personally, alone here in this big silent room, they didn't have a very reassuring effect on me. In fact, he wasn't quite correct when he said this place didn't affect me at all. I don't find it a very cheerful spot by any means. You can be sure of that. I may not be psychic, but I've certainly got a sort of feeling it doesn't want us here, resents us, and would like to see the back of us. Or else. I felt that way as soon as I entered the front door. One sort of had to wade through the hostility. I'm not kidding or trying to raise your hopes. It's very quiet here, listeners. I'm having a look around the room. This lamp casts some queer shadows. There is an odd one near the wall by the door, but I realise now it must be one cast by a big Adams bookcase. I know that's what it is, because I peeped under the dust cover when I first came in. It's a very fine piece. It's queer to think of you all listening to me. I shouldn't really mind if I had some of you for company. The owner of the house told us we should probably hear rats and mice in the wainscoting. Well, I can certainly hear them now. Pretty hefty rats from the sound of them. Even you can almost hear them, I should think. Well, what else is there to tell you about? Nothing very much, except that there's a bat in the room. I think it must be a bat and not a bird. I haven't actually seen it, only its shadow as it flew past the wall just now, and then it fanned past my face. I don't know much about bats, but I thought they went to bed in the winter. This one must suffer from insomnia. Ah, there it is again. It actually touched me as it passed. Now I can hear the Professor moving about in the room above. I don't suppose you can. Have a try. Now listen carefully. Hello. Did you hear that? He must have knocked over a chair or something. A heavy chair. From the sound of it, I wonder if he's having any luck. Ah, there's that bat again. It seems to like me. Each time it just touches my face with its wings as it passes. They're smelly things, bats. I don't think they wash often enough. This one smells kind of rotten. I wonder what the Professor knocked over. I could see a small stain forming on the ceiling, perhaps a flower bowl or something. Hello, did you hear that sharp crack? I think you must have. The oak panelling stretching, I suppose, but it was almost ear-splitting in here. Something ran across my foot then. A rat, perhaps? I've always loathed rats. Most people do, of course. That stain on the ceiling has grown quite a lot. I think I'll just go to the door and shout to the Professor to make sure he's all right. You'll hear me shout and his answer, I expect. Professor? Professor? Well, he didn't answer. I believe he's a little bit deaf, but he's sure to be all right. I won't try again just yet, as I know he likes to be undisturbed on these occasions. I'll sit down again for a minute or two. I'm afraid this is rather dull for you, listeners. I'm not finding it so, but then of course. There, I heard him cough. Did you hear that cough, listeners? A sort of very throaty double cough. It seemed to come from... I wonder if he's crept down and is having a little fun with me, because I tell you, listeners, this place is beginning to get on my nerves just a wee little bit. Just a bit. I wouldn't live in it for a pension, a very large pension. Get away, you brute. That bat. Faugh! It stinks. Now listen carefully. Can you hear those rats? Having a game of rugger from the sound of them. I really shall be quite glad to get out of here. I can quite imagine people doing themselves in this house, saying to themselves, after all, it isn't much of a life when you think of it. Figure it out, is it? Just work and worry and getting old and seeing your friends die. Let's end it all in the river. I'm not being very cheerful, am I? It's this darned house. Those other two places we investigated didn't worry me a bit. But this, I wonder what the Professor's doing besides coughing. I can't quite make that cough out because... Get away, you brute. That bat'll be the death of me. Death of me. Death of me. I'm glad I've got you to talk to, listeners, but I wish you could answer back. I'm beginning to dislike the sound of my own voice. After a time, if you've been talking in a room alone, you get fanciful. Have you ever noticed that? You sort of think you can hear someone talking back. There. No, of course you couldn't have heard it, because it wasn't there, of course. Just in my head. Just subjective, that's the word. That's the word. Very odd. That was me laughing, of course. I'm saying of course a lot. Of course I am. Well, listeners, I'm afraid this is awfully dull for you. Not for me, though. Not for me. No ghosts so far, unless the Professor is having better luck. There, you must have heard that. What a crack that panelling makes. Well, you must have heard that, listeners. Better than nothing. Ha ha! Professor! Professor! Phew, what an echo. Now, listeners, I'm going to stop talking for a moment. I don't suppose you'll mind. Let's see if we can hear anything. Did you hear it? I'm not exactly sure what it was. Not sure. I wonder if you heard it. Not exactly, but the house shook a little and the windows rattled. I don't think we'll do that again. I'll go on talking. I wonder how long one could endure the atmosphere of this place. It certainly is inclined to get one down. Gosh, that stain has grown. The one on the ceiling. It's actually started to drip. I mean, form bubbles. They'll start dropping soon. Coloured bubbles, apparently. I wonder if the Professor is okay. I mean, he might have shut himself up in a powder closet or something, and the powder closets in this house aren't particularly... Well, you never know, do you? Now, I should have said that shadow had moved. No, I suppose I put the lamp down in a slightly different position. Shadows do make odd patterns, you must have noticed that. This one might be a body lying on its face with its arms stretched out. Cheerful, aren't I? An aunt of mine gassed herself, as a matter of fact. Well, I don't know why I told you that, not quite in the script. Professor? Professor? Where is that old Fuzzy Whiskers? I shall certainly advise the owner to have this place pulled down, emphatically. Then where will you go? I must go upstairs in a minute or two and see what's happened to the Professor. Well, I was telling you about Auntie. Do you know, listeners, I really believe I'd go completely crackers if I stayed here much longer. More or less, anyway. And quite soon, absolutely stark staring. It wears you down. That's exactly it. It wears you down. I can quite understand. Well, I won't say all that again. I'm afraid this is all awfully dull for you listeners. I should switch it off if I were you. I should. What's on the other programme? I mean it, switch off. There, what did I tell you? That stain started to drip drops, drip drops, drip drops, drip drops. I'll go and catch one on my hand. Good God! Professor? 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 Now up those stairs. Which room would it be? Left or right? Left, right, left, right. Left has it. In we go. Well, gentlemen, good evening. What have you done with the Professor? I know he's dead. See his blood on my hand. What have you done with him? Make way, please, gentlemen. What have you done with him? Do you want me to sing it? Tra-la-la? Switch off, you fools. Well, if this isn't too darned funny. Hear me laughing, listeners. Switch off, you fools. That can't be him lying there. He hadn't a red beard. Don't crowd round me, gentlemen. Don't crowd me, I tell you. What do you want me to do? You want me to go to the river, don't you? Now? Will you come with me? Come on, then. To the river. To the river. And now we come to the sixth story in the book. I'll just check to see if that is the sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's the last in the section of haunted places, stories of fact and fiction. Our next reading for tomorrow will start with Avenging Spirits, Tales of Dangerous Elementals. So, Dark Winner by William Francis Nolan. The prospectus, well, the address is 3337 Forest Avenue, Kansas City, USA. The property, 20th century wood frames house, situated in a sprawling neighbourhood of predominantly small family homes. Sorry, excuse me. The property has 3 bedrooms, a living room, kitchen and basement. The building is in need of extensive renovation. And the viewing is July 1984. William Francis Nolan, it's 1928 to the present, he could have died since, was born and grew up in Kansas City. He worked as a commercial artist for some years before the success of his novel Logan's Run, 1967, written in conjunction with George Clayton Johnson and filmed in 1976, enabled him to become a full-time author and scriptwriter. He has written a number of stories with haunted house themes, including Gibbler's Ghost, The Party and Dark Winner, which Peter Straub found terribly disturbing. Nolan says the story is based on his first return in 20 years to his childhood home in Kansas City. I did all the things Frank does when he visits 3337 Forest, he says, except go inside. And now the story. Note, the following is an edited transcription of a taped conversation between Mrs. Franklin Evans, resident of Woodland Hills, California, and Lieutenant Harry W. Lyle of the Kansas City Police Department. Transcript is dated 12th of July 1984, KC, Missouri. That's KC being Kansas City. Right, Lyle. And if you want us to help you, you'll have to know everything. When did you arrive here, Mrs. Evans? Mrs. Evans. We just got in this morning. A stopover on our trip from New York back to California. We were at the airport when Frank suddenly got this idea about his past. What idea? About visiting his old neighbourhood. The school he went to. The house where he grew up. He hadn't been back here in 25 years. So you and your husband planned this nostalgic tour? Not planned. It was very abrupt. Frank seemed suddenly possessed by the idea. So what happened? We took a cab out to Flora Avenue to 31st, and we visited his old grade school, St. Vincent's Academy. The neighbourhood is, well, I guess you know it's a slum area now, and the school is closed down, locked, but Frank found an open window, climbed inside. While you waited? Yes, in the cab. When Frank came out, he was all upset. Said that well, this sounds... Go on, please. He said he felt very close to his childhood while he was in there. He was ashen-faced. His face and hands were trembling. What did you do then? We had the cab take us up to 31st to the Isis Theatre, the movie house at 31st and Truce, where Frank used to attend those Saturday horror shows they had for kids. Each week a new one. Frankenstein, Dracula, you know the kind I mean. I know. It's a porno place now, but Frank bought a ticket anyway, went inside alone, said he wanted to go into the balcony, find his old seat, see if things had changed. And he came out looking very shaken, saying it had happened again. What had happened again? The feeling about being close to his past, to his childhood, as if he could... Could what, Mrs. Evans? Step over the line dividing past and present. Step back into his childhood. That's the feeling he said he had. Where did you go from the Isis? Frank paid off the cab and said he wanted to walk to his old block, the one he grew up on, 33rd and Forest. So we walked down Truce to 33rd, past strip joints and hamburger stands. I was nervous. We didn't belong here. Anyway, we got to 33rd and walked down the hill from Truce to Forest, and on the way Frank told me how much he'd hated being small, being a child, that he could hardly wait to grow up, that to him childhood was a nightmare. Then why all the nostalgia? It wasn't that. It was like an exorcism. Frank said he'd been haunted by his childhood all the years we'd lived in California. This was an attempt to get rid of it, by facing it, seeing that it was really gone, that it no longer had any reality. What happened on Forest? We walked down the street to his old address, which was just past the middle of the block, 3337. It was a small, sagging wooden house, in terrible condition, but then all the houses were. Their screens full of holes, windows broken, trash in the yards. Frank stood in front of his house staring at it for a long time, and then he began repeating something over and over. And what was that? He said it like a litany, over and over. I hate you. I hate you. You mean he was saying that to you? Oh, no, not to me. I asked him what he meant, and he said he hated the child he once was, the child who had lived in that house. I see. Go on, Mrs. Evans. Then he said he was going inside, that he had to go inside the house, but that he was afraid. Of what? He didn't say of what. He just told me to wait out there on the walk. Then he went up onto the small wooden porch, knocked on the door, no one answered. Then Frank tried the knob. The door was unlocked. House was deserted? That's right. I guess no one had lived there for a long time. Well, all the windows were boarded up, and the driveway was filled with weeds. I started to move towards the porch, but Frank waved me back. Then he kicked the door all the way open with his foot, took a half step inside, turned, and looked around at me. There was a terrible fear in his eyes. I got a cold, chilled feeling all through my body, and I started towards him again, but he suddenly turned his back and went inside. The door closed. What then? Then I waited. For 15-20 minutes, a half hour, Frank didn't come out. So I went up to the porch and opened the door. Called to him. Any answer? No. The house was like a hollow cave. There were echoes, but no answer. I went inside, walked all through the place, into every room, but he wasn't there. Frank was gone. Out the back, maybe? No, the back door was nailed shut, rusted. It hadn't been opened for years. The window, then? They were all boarded over. with thick dust on the sills. Did you check the basement? Yes, I checked the basement door leading down. It was locked and the dust hadn't been disturbed around it. Then, just where the hell did he go? I don't know, Lieutenant. That's why I called you, why I came here. You've got to find Frank. Note: Lieutenant Lyle did not find Franklin Evans. The case was turned over to missing persons, and a week later, Mrs. Evans returned to her home in California. The first night back she had a dream, a nightmare. It disturbed her severely. She could not eat, could not sleep properly. Her nerves were shattered. Mrs. Evans then sought psychiatric help. What follows is an excerpt from a taped session with Dr. Lawrence Reddin, a licensed psychiatrist with offices in Beverly Hills, California. Transcript is dated 3rd of August 1984, Beverly Hills. And where were you? In the dream, I mean. My bedroom. In bed at home. It was as if I'd just been awakened. It looked around me. I looked around me, and everything was normal. The room exactly as it always is. Except for him. The boy standing next to me. Did you recognize this boy? No. Describe him to me. He was 9 or 10. A horrible child, with a cold hate in his face, in his eyes. He had on a black sweater with holes in each elbow, and knickers, the kind that boys used to wear. And he had on black tennis shoes. Did he speak to you? Not at first. He just smiled at me. And that smile was so evil. And then he said that he wanted me to know he'd won at last. Won what? That's what I asked him, calmly, in the dream. I asked him what he'd won, and he said, "Oh, my God," he said. Go on, Mrs. Evans. That he'd won, Frank. That my husband would never be coming back. That he, the boy, had him now. Forever. I screamed and woke up, and instantly I remembered something. What did you remember? Before she died, Frank's mother sent us an album she'd saved of his childhood, photos, old report cards. He never wanted to look at it, stuck the album away in a closet. After the dream, I got it out, looked through it, until I found... Yes? A photo I'd remembered, of Frank, at the age of 10, standing in the front yard on Forest. He was smiling, that same awful smile, and he wore a dark sweater with holes in each elbow, knickers, and black tennis shoes. It was the same boy exactly, the younger self Frank had always hated. I know what happened in that house now. Then tell me. The boy was waiting there, inside that awful rotten dead house, waiting for Frank to come back, all those years, waiting there to claim him, because he hated the man that Frank had become as much as Frank hated the child he'd once been. And the boy was right. Right about what, Mrs. Evans? About winning. He took all those years, but he won. And Frank lost.